and where does this rank already? In the short time AEW's been around, but you've already had a lot of big moments. Where is this ranking so far? Being able to put on a show in this area, in really in a town you grew up in.
Well, I was looking at it earlier. It's kind of it's almost like two different pay-per-views. You know, we have Revolution coming up in Chicago, and everything on the show kind of is a commercial or the vessel towards this Revolution pay-per-view. But we actually are doing everything kind of as a vessel to get to Atlanta as well, and that just speaks to how powerful the market is. Like, I'm on the actual routing calls, I suppose. And when we talked about coming to Atlanta, I must have said 1,000 times, if not more, you can't come to Atlanta unless it's significant what you're going to put out there. And that's why we decided, very first ever cage match in the history of the company. We're going to decorate the card even further, but it's very special. The arena is special. The arenas that existed in the rubble beneath State Farm now, whether it be the Omni itself, like are significant, not just in my wrestling life, but in my life. Yeah. So I'm one of those who visualize. I haven't thought about Revolution near as much as I've thought about this Atlanta show.
In the history here, as far as wrestling goes, from the City Auditorium way back when, the Omni you mentioned, Georgia Dome had some big shows. Yeah. Why has wrestling always worked here? Why is it such a good wrestling city?
I don't know if I can put a finger on exactly why, but I do know it has a very unique, snapshot of America in terms of Atlanta. Like, our fan base for wrestling, it isn't unlike if you go to a Falcons or a Hawks game and you see, this city was doing things, Atlanta was doing things that other cities took a long time to do. You know what I'm saying? And the harmony aspect of cultures coming together is really significant in Atlanta. Wrestling, I think the reason why it works is because wrestling was already there, if that makes any sense. Wrestling was one of the first things that broke the color barrier before baseball. It was one of the first things that had Polynesian heroes, black heroes, white heroes. It was a real snapshot of what the country was growing up to be. And I think that's the type of the fan base. Really, it's so unique when you see them. They're these really educated, hardcore wrestling fans who know about everything, and then there's this kind of casual nature fan who's just there. Oh, he's the bad guy, he's the good guy, and they like to boo, they like to cheer. It's just a lovely place. It also is an entitled fan base, which is great for a wrestler because they won't accept less. You got to go hard. You got to give them more, and when you do, they give it back in turn. And I'm excited to see some of our younger roster in Atlanta for the first time.
I have to assume that starting a wrestling company is not the easiest thing in the world, and the landscape is just littered with folks who have tried and either are kind of just hanging on or failed. Why were you guys so confident that this would work? And were you confident that this would work when you first started?
For me, I've always been kind of the one in the group that has had the most optimism about our shows. Sure. And even from before we were a wrestling company, when we were just doing an independent show called All In, I was the one that said, I think it's definitely going to sell out today. And I think people are underestimating, the power of our fan base here.
That's a heck of a prediction to make, by the way.
It was crazy.
Not many people did make that.
Yeah. I was the only one in the whole group.
I did not make that prediction.
And when the site crashed, I was like, maybe they'll listen to me one day. No, but right. Still hasn't happened. Nobody listens to me. No. And so I've kind of carried that on, and I've been pretty spot on with a lot of estimates, and now we're flanked with a fantastic person in our market rep, Raphael Morphy, in that he and I kind of echo each other a little bit, so I feel good about that.
So you're not alone anymore.
Right. But I think that there was a good self-awareness as far as the fact that we do have this fan base, and that they're real, that they really want an alternative. They say that they would be 100% behind it, and I think All In was the point where I saw that they're in. These people they're here, they're real, they're in, they're invested. All we have to do is keep them invested, which is a tall order. Sure. But we've been able to do it so far, which has been fantastic. And we really don't take for granted at all the fan base. We take them into consideration so much with everything that we do. And I think that is something that makes us very different. And I think they really appreciate that from us. So I can consider them a big hand in the success we've been able to have, and hopefully that we'll continue to have for years and years to come here.
The Wednesday night show Dynamite, I know, has, at least for a lot of people, exceeded maybe expectations already as far as who's watching, the number of people watching, who you're going up against, and how well you're doing. And already TNT has kind of stepped up and said, hey, we want to do this longer. Were you surprised at all that TNT came this quickly and said, hey, this is great, we want to keep doing this? And obviously it's a compliment to you guys, but I don't know if you expected this early or not.
Well, so I'm just kind of like the eternal pessimist, and I've committed my life to pro wrestling. I think that maybe to answer your kind of your last question, that was the thing that I think is why this isn't as difficult as people might think, because I'm very all in on this. Like, it's a very real slogan. Like, I'm committed to pro wrestling. It's not a springboard elsewhere. It's not a volley back to my old company. This is it. I was really expecting something like that to happen after perhaps we'd been tested a little bit more, but we did have a great test thrown at us early with the cross promotion and the situation that happened when WWE was trying to load up the show around Survivor Series time, load their Wednesday show with their biggest stars against a startup company with people like Britt Baker and Darby Allin, who are stars that are being built. They're year one stars. You know, they don't have the equity that some of the folks that were going to be counter-programmed against them would. And they saw we were able to take that, make a better show out of it, and move forward and move back into a leading position. And I think they appreciated that test. And I think also everyone in the group, whether it be Tony Khan, the owner and the founder, or the EVPs, very self-aware. Like, this isn't a vanity project. We're very much, okay, if we want to accomplish this, these are the tools we're going to need. Let's get those tools, whether that be a hot free agent, whether that be somebody we're homegrown brewing, and we're very big on presenting it in that fashion. And that was something I was really happy that Turner and Kevin, Sam, Brett invested in us in the way they did. It's a responsibility to me to, okay, well, we got to give them the best show every week, and the best show has to be better than the best show we gave them the week before, you know, and that's like the most fun responsibility you could have.
Do you allow yourself the luxury of looking ahead? I mean, where can you see this company in 5 years? Like, where do you want it to be? Or where can it be? Where can it go?
I'm going to say something that's controversial, and I don't mean it to be, but this always happens anytime I'm interviewed for an extended period of time.
Let's think about it before you
I would like the company in 5 years to be on a different night and competing in the same fashion they are. Not that I don't love Wednesday nights, but I can tell we have real players, and I look at this data. Like, we're not lying about the Revolution anymore. It's very supported. So I would love to see how it does on another night of the week.
That doesn't offend me. What he said.
A particular night that you prefer, or just one of the two with other major competition on?
I mean, honestly, in 5 years, who knows?
Yeah.
But I can tell you this: if we had a random storm situation or something that would just pop up, where I was like, you know what, we're going to put Dynamite on a Monday night. If that was to happen in this current threshold right now, I'd still be very confident in what we could do, and I'd be confident that our guys would be up for the challenge.
How much do you look at the numbers on Wednesday nights? Is that a big point of pride when you look and you say, and I forget how many weeks it's been that you guys I think have won all but one maybe.
I feel like for us more than, I know people online and stuff love to look at the war or whatever. More so, it's important to us to look at our segments, individual segments, and what they mean, what the breakdowns are. I mean, for instance, sometimes you'll see a segment that maybe, in our P1 is not the most popular, but in our P2, it's the number one thing on the show. Why is that? Well, who's watching that? So for me, that's super important to look at and kind of analyze, from week to week. If we do something similar, is it the same thing still, or does it change? And when it is the same thing, it just is fascinating to me to see, okay, like, these are the people who are watching this and they're really enjoying this. So how can we satisfy both people in creating something?
And the leader of Tony Khan being the leader of the company, being a numbers guy, you can't not look at the numbers, and you can't escape the numbers. So if you want to take a risk on something, or if you want to put something in a certain spot, you're going to look at the data the week before. It doesn't mean you won't take chances. You don't want to be held hostage by them, but man, how great is it that we even have the chance every week? Chris Harrington is his name. He presents a review every week of just, it's so much data to dive into. You're looking at exactly how well you did in New York City, how well you did amongst this demographic. It's not just P1 and P2 anymore, and that's really special. I think for these roles that we've been given, it's really special because it gives us okay, we should do this for this reason, and it gives us something to take a look at. Quarter hours are one thing. Like, that's the thing, people talk quarter hours and overall numbers, but I like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I could actually dig into the real minute-by-minute element of it, and that's fun.
It's interesting.
That's really interesting. It's fun. It keeps you self-aware if you're a talent, too. Like, if you think you're Elvis and then you see people turned away when you were walking out there, maybe you're not Elvis, you know? So it's really cool.
What would Dusty Rhodes think about Cody and Brandi starting AEW and just putting on this product, the success you guys have seen so far? What would he think, do you think?
I think he would probably want a job.
That was my next question. Would you be offering ideas and some criticism?
Dusty was one of those individuals that he had made so much money in the business and had done such high-profile stuff that he kind of superseded. There's some of these old timers and legends that really have a really traditional outlook on wrestling. But then you look at some of the legends and luminaries from the past that don't have a traditional outlook at it at all, because they were there for anything that like supersedes standard business, where like business was so hot. Guys like Ric Flair, you know, for example. And I think he would really just probably want to sit back and find a few guys and girls that he could, hey, what if you tried this, or say just this, and do this, or if you get lost, do this. I think he'd be really good peer-to-peer. Versus looking at the overall totality of the show, because this is a very progressive product, and some of the veterans and legends around it, it's actually taking them time to look at it and go, okay, I see what they're doing. Like, they're not these four dudes aren't nuts. Like, they've got a plan. Jim Ross is a great example. Yeah. I think my dad would treat it just like Jim treats it. Jim watches, he doesn't oversell it. His heart is into it, though. You know, his heart's there. He loves wrestling, and you as a talent, that's a great feeling when you can feel him feeling the product. Like, oh man, Jim's on fire out there because he's feeling it, and the fans are feeling it. So I think he'd probably find a good few stars and probably peer to peer want to coach them, which is something we need, and he would be perfect at it.
How would he have handled watching your match against Dustin, do you think?
Oh, he would have hated it.
Oh, you think so?
He didn't want us ever to work together because we're vastly different. And like Dustin and I, if we were on this couch right now, we would be arguing about something. We're just different. We're just so different. I think in the overall product, he'd probably be really proud of. Yeah. The main thing that match acts as is it's like, hey, this is what I wanted AEW to be. This match. Look at this match. This is what I told folks AEW would be, and this is what it really kind of is like, the goal ultimately of what we're presenting as an alternative wrestling product. So I think he'd be proud of that. The best compliment I got from that match was Tony Khan did not tell me, he told my brother. He said, well, your match made my company.
Wow.
And he's never told me, he told Dustin that, and I thought, that's pretty significant. Yeah. We gotta do another one of those, you know. Yeah. But yeah, he probably would have been proud in his own way.
So the show is February 19th, State Farm Arena. Go ahead and sell me on the show. Why should the folks who haven't bought a ticket yet come out and watch the show?
Oh man, I mean, I always say the same thing, but really, really, truly, I can't ring it home enough on this, in that this is history. Literally, this is the first time that this company is coming to a major market in Atlanta, one of the top markets, one of the ones that people are going to look at for direction, and you have a chance to be a hand in that. You have a chance to be one of those people who kind of helped tailor the product of AEW, because our fans are as much of the product as we are today. Yeah. Also, it's the first steel cage match. Like, how can you pass that up? I mean, literally, something could go terribly wrong, considering that it's live television. And if you want to be there to be the one to say, like, hey, I was there and I saw this happen. Also, it could be absolute magic being the first ever. And also, I'm a little worried about the match because Wardlow, the way that he hit you this week was so intense. I can't imagine the stuff that's going to be happening in this cage match. So I'll be, praying, but everybody else is probably going to be having a fantastic time watching, two people like just go head to head.
It's so significant. What's about the truth doesn't need weight. This is the Turner City. When AEW was announced, one of the first things we did was go to the old Turner Mansion on Techwood and take a group picture. The same group picture my dad took in 1988.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm taking in 2019, now 2020. I always tell people Atlanta's an A market without the A market attitude. And this is like AEW. If there was a home for AEW, this is a home game. And this is a spot we're going to come to on a regular basis, and there's more than just State Farm Arena here, as we've alluded to. So there's big plans for Atlanta and AEW, and this is the first outing for it ever, and I want people to come in with no expectations. You just come see AEW for what it's worth, and I guarantee you'll have a great time, and you'll want to come when we come back.
First of many shows, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't want to say that when you're like, hey, come to this one show. But of course, it's Atlanta.
Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with the show.
Thank
Look forward
you.
to it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.